Well, after what was an incredible episode of the show, which was episode 5, right at the end of it, we got a preview for the 6th episode in the season. One which looks as though it's going to be similar to episode 4 in its approach. It doesn't seem like we're going to be that focused on what's going on in the air, but it seems like we're going to be getting a more personal look inside the mindset of what remained of the 100th bomb group following what happened on their mission to Munster, whilst also seeing Harry's struggles and him blaming himself for what happened to Bubbles, and also Bucky's journey to safety and the hopes of avoiding being spotted by the Germans. So with that, let's break down the trailer for the next episode, and I'll also share my theories and predictions on what I think will happen next. Here is Masters of the Air episode 6 trailer explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. So the trailer for the next episode opened up with a collection of shots that looked like Rosenthal and some other men were going to a facility where there was a doctor that was present. This is Dr. Huston. Something that was clear to see from the off as Rosenthal was arriving at the grounds was the amount of smiling that was present on everybody's faces, something which he hasn't really been used to seeing in recent times. This is something that I think is going to impact his mindset and the way that he acts whilst he's there, as this isn't the type of environment that he's been around. It's been the complete opposite, one of death, devastation, and seeing fear in people's eyes. I imagine Rosenthal has probably been sent there following what happened after Munster, where himself and the people on board his plane were the only ones that returned out of the 13 that went up in the air on that specific mission, with it looking like he was in complete shock in the final moments of the episode when he landed, and there being other men that were saying that they weren't going back up in the air. I imagine this is the sort of place where you probably get sent to have some kind of rest in order to get your mind back to where it needs to be. The line of dialogue that was being spoken over this was by Rosenthal to Dr. Huston. Rosenthal said there was a mission to Munster. It was rough. As he said this, Rosenthal was looking around a bush in the garden, and we saw somebody that was sitting on the bench crying their eyes out in panic. We've not really seen the impact on the mind of war that much in this season so far, just the sheer amount of loss that people can experience in the matter of minutes. I imagine this is somebody that's suffering the effects of war within their mind, so it will be interesting to see that getting explored. Dr. Huston then responded to Rosenthal and said, 3 missions in your first 3 days, 120 men dead in one afternoon, to which Rosenthal responded by saying, and I wasn't one of them. That in itself shows the sheer amount of death that was present and the reason as to why he may have been sent there. The fact that Rosenthal said what he said there shows that his mind may not be in as much of a fragile position as what it might have been perceived to be, and he's almost implying that he wants to be back out there and making a difference. Similar to how we saw Bucky in episode 4, where he phoned back to the base and wanted to get straight back in the air following the news of what happened to Buck. The next line that was spoken was one that kind of confirmed that point. Rosenthal said the line, I don't think this kind of environment is helpful for me. I'd like to return back to base. This was intercut with a few shots where it seemed like Rosenthal was relaxing and taking time to himself and looking on as others did the same. I imagine he's most likely got a sense of guilt being somewhere like that, knowing that people back at base are going up in the air and risking their lives. It's clearly something that's on his mind, as we saw a shot of him struggling to sleep and getting up during the night and just wandering around. The next line of dialogue that was spoken was by Dr. Huston, and he said, this war, human beings weren't meant to behave this way. As he said this, there was a long shot of Bucky running through the woods looking like he was trying to avoid being seen. Bucky landed in Germany following him leaving the plane due to it being damaged and beyond the point of flying, so I imagine we're going to be seeing what's going on in Germany through the perspective of him, whilst he's navigating the space and trying to find passageway home. Dialogue then kicked in, which was by Rosenthal, as he said, you see people being persecuted, subjugated, you have to do something. This was accompanied with some real powerful shots on screen. There was a shot of people crammed inside of a train with their faces looking in complete terror. I don't know for certain yet, but I would assume that this is people being forcefully separated, placed on the trains and taken off to a concentration camp. The sheer amount of guards that were there and the look of fear that was in their faces, it was just haunting. It's the first time we've seen something like this in the show, and that one small feature in itself was powerful enough. After this, it then cut to a different side of the story that we're going to be seeing unfold in the next episode. It was focused on Harry Crosby. He said the line, Bubbles, he went down last week. It was my fault. This shows the weight of the loss of his best friend and why he's most likely at the facility too. He most likely blames himself due to the promotion that he got. and thinks about how if he didn't take the job off of his best friend because he was replaced by him, then Bubbles would have still been alive. However, that would have most likely meant that Cros would be dead, but that's something that he doesn't actually seem to care that much about. It looks like when he said that line, he could have been speaking to Rosenthal, judging by the lighting and the environment that they were in at that moment. This was then followed by Rosenthal saying, "You don't go crying about it, you get back in the seat and you finish the damn job." This was intercut with Rosenthal back at base getting in his plane and preparing himself for his next mission. He actually had a smile on his face as he was looking at his plane, something that he didn't have during the first part of the trailer when he was at the facility. So one can only imagine that he's happier being back at base feeling as though he's making a difference. What this line also showed us was the mindset that many people had back then, almost making light of the weight on the mind that the horrific experiences that they lived through gave them, and showed that they didn't want to let it impact the job that they had to do. After this, there was then a selection of shots as we approached the end of the trailer. We saw people being put on a train, and it's hard to see if it's Bucky, and I'm not sure if it actually is, but I'm guessing that these are people that are being taken to a prisoner of war camp. Plus, there was also a shot of a German town looking like it had been bombed. So again, maybe from the perspective of Bucky, we're going to be seeing the bombs hitting from the perspective of on the ground and not in the air. There was also a shot of Harry back at the base, so I imagine he probably took on board what Rosenthal said and went back with him. Plus, there was also a shot of what looked like a German air warden firing at a civilian in front of everybody. Again, this is an episode where I feel we're going to see some of the more human atrocities that occurred up close and personal during the war. Something that I imagine is going to be quite hard to watch. The final part of the trailer was where members of a German family said the word Americana as they led their father into a river. Judging by the greenery, one can only assume that this is taking place near the scene that occurred in the trailer earlier on, where Bucky was running through the woods. This looks like it's going to be a tense scene as Bucky is hiding deep in the water and in the bushes, only a matter of inches away from the German man. With his weapon in his hand, it feels like Bucky could fire at him, and that could be why he ended up running away, so time will tell with that one. Although this episode looks like it's gonna be different compared to the one that we just had, it feels like it's gonna be more personal, intimate, and allow us to see up close the horrors that were inflicted during the Second World War. There wasn't actually a focus on Quinn in the trailer, and he also wasn't in the last episode too, so I do wonder what's gonna be happening with his arc. I imagine he'll be in the next episode, as I don't think they'd leave him out of two. Maybe through his eyes is where we're also going to be seeing some of the horrors up close. With a week to digest the episode that we've just had, I'm already looking to see what's going to be happening next. So, there you have it, Masters of the Air Episode 6 Trailer Explained. If you want to see more videos on Masters of the Air, then click on the card in the top corner. I break down the episodes every week, so be sure to come back to see more videos on it. What do you think will happen next in the show? Be sure to leave your comments below, and thanks for watching the video, I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.